Zimbabweans headed to the polls today in the first vote since the decades of Mugabe rule came to an abrupt end last November. The front-runner in the race is Emmerson Mnangagwa, who took over from Mugabe. But the race is tight. His main challenger, Nelson Chamisa, from the Movement for Democratic Change, has strong support in urban areas. Whoever wins faces the unenviable task of putting Zimbabwe's economy back on track after 37 years of de facto dictatorship and corruption. And then there's the brutal past which haunts Zimbabwe nowhere more than in Matabeleland, from where Alastair Leithead now reports. There are images in this piece that some viewers may find disturbing.
People aren't used to peaceful elections in Zimbabwe. But in a small rural polling station in the hills of Matabeleland, they waited patiently to mark a card without Robert Mugabe's name on it for the first time since independence. What was done in his name casts a long shadow over this part of Zimbabwe. It's a history that's only gradually being uncovered. This landscape, marked by grand granite monuments, holds the bones of the many thousands killed in the early 1980s.
Is it over there? It's there.
This is a search for one of the missing. Nico has spent years waiting for people to come forward, and now witness has led them here, to a place where Fanta Ndlovu's body might have been dumped.
They took Fanta to a bridge next to the national park there. Inside the national park. At that point, he was badly beaten, he could hardly walk. Then he was shot dead.
And who witnessed the shooting?
This is where it's thought his remains could lie.
Right, okay, let me just look down here and see what I can see.
Shari Eppel is a forensic anthropologist who's been investigating disappearances for many years and has brought closure to the victims' families.
The top of it on the right, if you look, you'll see what looks like a shirt sleeve. It looks like a white and red stripy shirt sleeve. Okay, so it seems to me that this story could well be true, that these are human remains.
Of white rule in Zimbabwe, but knew it was regarded.
The Lancaster House Agreement of 1979 paved the way for Zimbabwe's independence, but the rebel factions who signed were deadly rivals. Robert Mugabe won the race for dominance, and a special military unit under his direct command was trained in North Korea.
The 5th Brigade's anti-rebel crackdown has won them a fearsome reputation.
The 5th Brigade was deployed to Matabeleland to deal with insurrection. It was known as the Gukurahundi, meaning the rain that washes away the chaff. It was ethnic violence. Thousands were killed, tortured or jailed. In this one small district of Matabeleland, 4 men went missing on one day in February 1984. One was Fanta Ndlovu, another was Julius Mvulu Nyathi, and his shallow grave was found in these hills. This is the only remaining picture of him as an 18-year-old. He was killed at 52. In May, his bones were exhumed in front of his family and the community. This week, he will be reburied at home.
It is very important to our people here, especially the fact that they can now unblock the mourning process, because people didn't mourn, because during that time people were made to do funny things when their relatives were being killed. Like there were these meetings where people would be made to sing, and you know, although you know very well that your beloved one is being killed somewhere, then you are made to sing and like celebrate, you know what I mean?
That's exactly the scene painted by Zimbabwean artist Owen Maseko, who depicted the killings in a 2010 exhibition.
They portray the torture and the killings that were done during that time. I was actually arrested the following morning after the opening night. The exhibition has since been banned. I can't exhibit it anywhere in the country. I think the main thing as a creative person was to expose and create dialogue about these particular atrocities and expose the leaders and hold them accountable for the violation of human rights.
Incumbent President Emmerson Mnangagwa was head of the intelligence services at the time. He's been accused of being directly involved, or at the very least aware of what was going on, something he strongly denies.
Emmerson Mnangagwa, for the past 38 years, was Robert Mugabe's right-hand man. No one can tell me that anyone who was part of Mugabe's cabinet for 38 years would have had no knowledge or would not be complicit in what happened.
But things have already changed under Mnangagwa. In the past, people were openly intimidated into voting for the ruling party, and he has already approved a Peace and Reconciliation Commission.
The atrocities carried out here in the 1980s still weigh heavily on people's minds, if only because it wasn't acknowledged that these things actually happened. But it's the economy that dominates life and has done, as people have seen their lives get poorer and harder over the years. And there are very few young men here voting today. That's because many of them have gone to Botswana, South Africa, neighbouring countries, because unemployment is so high. Whoever it is that people vote for, they want an acknowledgement of the past, and they also want this country to move forward.
Thriving industries have been driven into the ground. 15 years ago, the railways were a big employer. These streets were once filled with thousands of workers. At least the churches are full. There is hope that whoever wins this election will keep their promises. A harmonious result will bring investors back and boost the economy. But Zimbabwe needs to face the past, finding its skeletons, mourning the dead, understanding the atrocities, and eventually forgiving the perpetrators.